The new Grand Prix season dawns. You join us on a hot air balloon. We're floating gently in the skies above Melbourne. Enjoy the tranquility and the view. It won't last. Yes, we have liftoff for F1 2004. Hello there. Very well done indeed for getting up or staying up to join us. Live is the only way. The upcoming Australian Grand Prix sets us off on a wonderful journey. We're going round the world in 18 races. It will be an absolute blast.
To see it then, this historic moment when Michael Schumacher became the first six-time World Formula One champion. Schumacher was on pole here last year, and is he going to be on pole again? Well, he's certainly going the right way about it. A superb lap by Michael Schumacher.
Time to move over? Not quite. It's another lap record and the #1 Ferrari is on pole. Jenson Button's BAR is right behind after reproducing his brilliant winter testing form. Hello there. Yeah, we managed to touch down safely. Welcome to race day at Albert Park. I'm talking to you from the Ferrari headquarters. One or two of the Ferrari boys here just chilling out, really, before the storm of the Australian Grand Prix. I have to say, this Australian race has always been my favourite. It's the first of a massive calendar, an unprecedented 18 Grand Prix, and we're visiting some very interesting places. After our next stop in Malaysia, we go racing in the desert in Bahrain. In Europe, there is a frantic burst. 6 races in just 8 weeks. Back-to-back long hauls, Canada and the USA. Silverstone, the date for your diary, July the 11th. Great to see Spa back in that facility in Shanghai. Believe me, absolutely spectacular for the first Chinese Grand Prix, and the curtain comes down in Brazil. Mark Brundell's within. Now, Mark, what do the drivers feel about a calendar like that, unprecedented?
I spoke to a number of the drivers, Jim, and a few of them are a little bit concerned because this really is a big schedule for them. I mean, we're here in Australia, they go on to Malaysia, then Bahrain. We've got the long haul to America, China, Japan at the end of the season. It's going to be long, tiring. Also for the mechanics, bear in mind, these guys put a lot of hours in. I mean, it's really going to take the strain come the end of the year.
A lot of tension around today. I mean, people have done things in the winter. It doesn't matter. This is the first real day at work.
This is delivery day. You know, we've seen all these testing times. We've seen a lot of the guys in the papers. We've heard them on the radio, on TV, talking about what they're going to do for the season. Now they've got to deliver. So just wait and see when it comes out of the race. Yeah,
and there's fascination here. I mean, obviously in the Ferrari garage as well about their man, Michael Schumacher, and everyone down the pit lane here are wondering who can knock him off the perch. Off his perch? Can anybody?
From my side of things, I mean, I've made a few predictions before the season kicks off, and I've gone with Michael and Ferrari again. I just don't see anybody down the pit lane at the moment, driver or team, who are going to knock him off the perch.
Good. Okay, Mark. Thank you very much indeed. Well, let's just take you through the teams, shall we? One or two of the experienced drivers have moved around a bit. New faces to watch out for. But right here at Ferrari, well, things stay very much as they are.
It is the finest Ferrari ever created. It has already smashed the lap record here in Melbourne. Its codename F2004. Lead driver Michael Schumacher says he has nothing more to prove and is now racing for fun. Trying to come between him and title number 7 is Rubens Barrichello.
Williams has produced the most radical-looking car on the grid. Ralf Schumacher needs to find some consistency this season if he's going to challenge for the championship. But nobody's dismissing Juan Pablo Montoya's chances of clinching the title he came so close to winning in 2003.
McLaren Mercedes driver lineup remains the same for now. David Coulthard will leave the team at the end of this season and so has nothing to lose and everything to gain. Until Juan Pablo Montoya arrives, Kimi Raikkonen is McLaren's golden boy. If the car is right, he can win, and win big.
Renault was a class act last season, but can a team move up to take centre stage in 2004? Alonso's eager to add a few more race wins to his tally, but the team won't have the luxury of those Friday morning sessions to help their cause. And don't discount Jarno Trulli's contribution.
If success was measured by pre-season column inches, you'd think Jenson Button had won a World Championship already. The new BAR is quick, so at the very least he should score his first podium. Teammate Takuma Sato is where ex-world champion Jacques Villeneuve once was.
It says Sauber on the nose, but tucked under the engine cover, there's more than just a hint of Ferrari about the C23. It's all change on the driver front. Giancarlo Fisichella joins from Jordan and Felipe Massa's back from testing duties at Ferrari.
This season, Jaguar crave nothing more than respect. They'll get it if Mark Webber performs like he did last year. He's up against a young man who could be the next big thing. Austrian Christian Klien has the speed, but does he have all the racing accessories?
Toyota should take steps forward this season. Cristiano Di Matta's got a year's worth of experience under his belt now, and Formula One's elder statesman Olivier Panis is a safe pair of hands.
Jordan find themselves down the end of the pit lane and don't want to stay there. They'll be relying on these two men to get results. Italian Giorgio Pantano, who incidentally was turned down for a drive at Jaguar, and German Nick Heidfeld.
A lack of budget isn't going to stop Minardi. Bruni's a promising newcomer. Baumgartner may struggle, but the little Italian team will never stop trying. Formula One's front-runners are used to VIP treatment, whether they're off to work or play. Michael Schumacher's been relaxed and jovial in the build-up to today's race, but he's clearly eager to get on with the main event.
I don't know why, but I feel so hot to get into the car and race and just do the best we can, and I think that will be not too bad.
How confident are you that you can be successful here?
Well, only to know that we are there. I don't think we're going to have a lead on anyone, but we will be there, and with the motivation of all the team and the way we have prepared ourselves, I think that could just make the difference. I believe it's going to be a tough competition, really, ending at the end with 4 options of teams who can be champion in the end.
Who?
Renault, BMW, Mercedes and ourselves.
And which do you think out of those are going to be your toughest competition?
I think it will not be clear even though after the first 3 races, because I feel the season is a long season to me, and we will see some teams very strong in the beginning and then maybe other teams becoming strong later on. Let's say if McLaren is not so strong initially, they could become very strong towards mid and end and turn it around again. So I don't think it's going to be clear at all.
What are your first impressions of the new car?
Of our new car?
Yes.
I feel that the guys have done a great job. It doesn't look very radical, but it feels very good on the road.
You're 6 times world champion now, so the most successful driver ever. There's nothing really left for you to prove. So what's your motivation to carry on racing as hard as you do?
If you think Formula One is the peak of motorsport, Ferrari is the most wanted car to drive for, if you think how many millions of people would love to race, to do what I'm doing, you simply can't get tired of it. It's so special that you just want to go. And now, as I have everything arrived, the pure pleasure is going to come.
Is it all about the winning, or is it just the competition for you?
It's about competition, which you finally would like to win.
He feels hot to race. He is loving his job in a million, and with Jacques Villeneuve out of the picture, Michael Schumacher is actually the only world champion on the grid. He's looked contented, he's looked relaxed, he's looked very fast, and qualifying confirmed the front row is Ferrari territory in Melbourne.
It's an amazing performance, but remember last year we showed a maybe identical performance, and then you all know how tough the season got in the end.
The first lap was very dirty, so I didn't push at all. The second one I put a good lap, and unfortunately Michael beat me by a little bit, but off we go.
You must be confident.
Well, I am confident. I think the car is running beautifully as well with a full tank, so there's only reason to be happy.
Tell us about the lap. Was it messy?
It's a good lap except the last sector. You know, the last sector was even slower than the first qualifying, so I was a bit disappointed with that.
You never do a perfect lap, but I'm reasonably happy with that.
I understand your boss has got big money on you for a win tomorrow. Is it a safe bet?
A win, that's a difficult one to say really, but if we've got the reliability in the race, which we should have, we're looking pretty strong.
The fourth straight all-Ferrari front row. Michael Schumacher, his third pole position here in Melbourne. Rubens Barrichello starts second, but he had pole in 2002. And then, heading towards turn one, he had a huge clash with Ralf Schumacher, sending the German skywards, and both drivers into retirement. A clean sweep then for Ferrari, but in third place, Juan Pablo Montoya in the Williams, looking for a great start to the season. And after a great performance in qualifying, fourth, Jenson Button, but he's on the dirty side of the grid, so he'll need his own brush. Fifth, Alonso's Renault. Sixth, Webber's Jaguar, bringing huge cheers from the home crowd. Seventh, Sato. Eighth, an off-form Ralf Schumacher. Truly ninth. 10th, a disappointed Kimi Raikkonen. 11th, GP's prodigal son, Massa returns. David Coulthard all the way down here in 12th position. He won from 11th last year, but it's going to be tough for him to replicate that. And what can he see from here? Kimi Raikkonen, his teammate right in front of him in 10th. Massa over there to his left, difficult to manoeuvre, and they've all got to make manual starts. A tough day for David Coulthard. 13th for Toyota, Cristiano De Matta. 14th, Fisichella after mistakes. 15th, Heidfeld on his Jordan debut. And 16th, rookie Giorgio Pantano. 17th, Zolt Baumgartner. Panis, no time after electrical failure. Rookie Christian Klien, hydraulic failure. Rookie 3, Bruni, never made it out of the pits.
Mark, I should probably ask you about a fashion view on Tony Jardine's footwear, but we'll move on from that, I think, and talk about the qualifying, shall we, the new style qualifying. Personally, I hated it. What do you feel about it?
The consensus at the pit lane at the moment, it's far too long. I think we need to chop it down. We need to create more atmosphere. We need to get that buzz come the end of it. 2 hours is just too long, and I don't think it's good for the drivers either. I think there's too much waiting around, and there's so little to do for the rest of the day.
And I think there's a safety aspect here as well. I know Minardi are very concerned about it. Baumgartner, they're Hungarian. They literally had to get him in and out of the pits really, really quickly before that second session.
Yeah, well, the situation's unfortunate for Minardi there because Baumgartner was the last guy out in the first session, and he's obviously the first guy out in the next session. There is a lot of frustration there with that not having enough time to maybe get the job done properly. And one thing for sure, he needs to go out there with confidence, knowing that all four wheels have been bolted on properly, knowing that the right amount of fuel's in. And you can see here, there's a lot of pressure, a lot of tension.
Bit of panic, perhaps.
Bit of panic as well. It's not healthy. I think we need to just look at the timing of it and just change the format ready for the oncoming races.
Throughout last year, David Coulthard had problems in qualifying. We hoped he had sorted it out in the winter. It doesn't appear that he has.
Well, DC struggled with the one-lap qualifying system last year. He basically got into the session yesterday. His lap wasn't too great to start with, but I mean, it would have been reasonable to put him somewhere healthy on the grid. He blew the last corner, runs off wide. Very lucky that he actually didn't get a little bit more airborne. The problem for him now is how much damage really got done on the car there. I mean, there is a situation where he can change these parts if he gets FIA regulations allow him to do such, but you know, the car might go into the race a little bit problematic.
Jenson Button had to move to the spare and did really, really well getting on the second row.
Very impressive. I think Jenson Button, outside of Michael Schumacher yesterday, did the best job down the pit lane. Let's not forget he took the spare car with an engine what had to be put back in that from his race car. They're never quite the same. You may think they are, but they're not. It's very good.
Got a good shout for a podium.
Oh, I think so, definitely.
Okay, Mikey, thank you very much. Well, we hate that new qualifying system. We hope it'll be changed as soon as possible. There are quite a few other regulations you should know about, though, before the start of the Foster's Australian Grand Prix.
Reaction to the new qualifying may be mixed, but the teams have adapted remarkably well. The person who came closest to breaking the new one engine per weekend rule was Jenson Button. Contact with a curb in practice broke the chassis, forcing him into the spare car. In previous years, he would have just used that spare car and its engine, but now if you change your engine before qualifying, you'll be dropped 10 places on the grid. So BAR had to move Jensen's original engine and him into the spare chassis. Was that not a pain for the team?
I think it's interesting. It's a different challenge, it's a different engineering challenge, and it may put a little bit more unreliability into the sport, so it might give it more of a interest, or certainly more of a worry for the team members during the races.
In yesterday's qualifying, Toyota's Olivier Panis, Minardi's Gian-Maria Bruni and Jaguar's Christian Klien all failed to make it out for their second qualifying run. That means they'll start the race at the back of the grid. They could change their engines and change fuel level and tyres, but then they'll start from the pit lane.
Well, from those at the back of the grid to the two at the front, Ross, you've had the night to think about the new regulations, new formats. What's your view?
I think it's a little bit too early to judge the full implications of the one engine rule. I think we'll see over the season, particularly when people have engine problems after change it, see how that affects them. We've had to be a little bit cautious on the manual changes because we have this one engine for the whole weekend, and of course there's now the chance the driver could run the engine on the rev limiter much harder. So I've been wrapping the driver's knuckles every time they touch the rev limiter because that can do a lot of damage.
And also we've got the pit lane speed limit raised by 20 kilometres an hour to 100 kilometres an hour. Is that going to tip the favour in 3 stops or rather than 2?
It could do here because also the pit lane's shorter. So it's a much shorter pit lane here than last year. Our guys are predicting something like 3 seconds shorter for a pit stop here than we had last year. So that will be a contributing factor towards a 3-stop. I think you'll see lots of 3-stops today.
Well, thanks very much for joining us. I don't know if you've seen this morning's paper in Australia, a rather ridiculous picture of Michael and the headline, "Catch me if you can." Can they?
I'm certainly very pleased with the drivers, and I say Michael's enthusiasm and passion is undiminished.
Thanks, Ross.
Okay.
Yeah, catch me if you can. He is 35 years of age now, Michael Schumacher. His driving skills show absolutely no sign of eroding. Rival team bosses like Ron Dennis and Eddie Jordan have talked about retirement. The man himself, though, confirming he's just having a lot of fun. Who, though, is capable of knocking the 6-time world champion off his perch?
Who will be P1 in 2004? Michael Schumacher's got to be the hot favourite, and even if Rubens Barrichello does chase him hard, Schumacher's up for the fight.
I do feel better, yeah, I have to say that. Whether there's a specific reason for it or might be a circumstance of several reasons. Having a good car, having a good feeling, being hungry after a long winter break, not having to talk about records anymore, and just drive for the pleasure.
Kimi Raikkonen came closest to toppling the champion last season. The Finn's ready to go all the way this time round, but has McLaren given him the machinery?
We did quite well in few testings, and then we had maybe not as good tests in some of them, but I think overall we have improved the car and reliability and everything, and we should be in a good shape now.
And if that's the case, expect David Coulthard to play his part. This year may be the Scots McLaren swan song, but that could be an extra incentive.
The reality is, when you hit the racetrack, we've all got to perform and use whatever we have in our armour to achieve the end result.
Juan Pablo Montoya steps into Coulthard's seat at McLaren in 2005, but that won't stop him from putting up a strong fight this year. Ralf Schumacher's seat isn't secure either. Things could be pretty volatile at Williams.
From what you see now, I wouldn't be surprised if they've got to get 2 new drivers, to be honest. You know, there's even rumours now of Ralf with Toyota and stuff, so I don't know how much true it is.
At the moment, it has nothing to do whether Frank thinks I'm good enough for this team. It's just whether I want to stay or not.
They seem to be 100% behind me, and I'm 100% behind the team because I want to win, and I'm still a Williams driver, so from that point of view, I'm pretty relaxed about it.
The championship might be out of Fernando Alonso's reach, but expect a strong showing from him and Jenson Button. This should be the year Button steps out of the shadows.
Well, let's hope so. He comes here to Melbourne as team leader at BAR on the back of some very impressive winter testing performances. Jenson and everyone here absolutely convinced they are capable of mixing with the big boys and putting the car on the second row is a great start. As for David Coulthard, though, once again here on race day, he has to repair the qualifying damage.
So much hype so soon in the season, but Jenson Button could now prove he has both style and substance. BAR is shaping itself into a proper F1 team. This year the car has a revolutionary carbon fibre gearbox.
Looks awesome. You know, it looks like it looks fast, and doesn't mean it's going to be fast, but it's normally a good, you know, it's a step in the right direction. And the amount of work that's gone into this car over the winter is it's fantastic.
Catch me if you can, 'cause I can't stop running.
The title of fiancée Louise Griffith's song was prophetic. Having to catch Button in the race today will be a Williams, both Renaults and both McLarens. The new team leader is delivering.
This is an amazing lap from Jenson Button, 1:24.998. He's in the same territory as a Ferrari. Dave Richards is ecstatic.
If we've got the reliability in the race, which we should have, we're looking pretty strong.
What does quite strong mean? Points or podium?
Points. A podium would be great, but I think we've just got to aim for, you know, the higher points finishes. But a podium would be quite tough.
Come on, baby, can you match my pace? There ain't no prizes for a second place.
Actually, there is a prize for second place. It's a big trophy and 8 points, and it would do very nicely, thank you. Meantime, David Coulthard faces the strangest of his 10 seasons in F1. Out of McLaren at the end of the year, he's won races here in Melbourne. The last one was just 12 months ago.
David Coulthard from Tyneham in Scotland wins the Australian Grand Prix.
But now McLaren are looking at a difficult year. Testing has been inconsistent, and David is not sure what to conclude.
If it's a competitive car, then the race results will hopefully follow, and then you gain momentum, you gain confidence, and it, you know, everyone starts smiling. If the car isn't competitive, or it's unreliable, or if I'm making mistakes, then obviously you get in a bit of a downward spiral.
A B version of the car is already being hurriedly built in Woking, but in qualifying, an old ghost reared its ugly head. David cannot afford to let his season be blighted by more qualifying errors. He's looking for another drive, and prospective team bosses are looking at him.
Well, Ron, David's moment looked spectacular. He probably didn't lose too much time, I think it's fair to say, but what would it have done to his mindset?
Well, obviously he was a bit frustrated with himself. Probably lost best part of 3/4 of a second, maybe more. In those situations, you have to lift. If you don't lift, you're going to spin the car. So he did lose time, but you know, it's one of those things. I don't think if you look at the even if you take a second off, he wouldn't have moved much up the grid. So it's not the end of the world.
We've heard talk about a B version of this MP4-19. Can you explain what that means and why it's necessary?
Well, I think somewhat premature to talk about the B. This was a comment I made during the course of a long meeting with several journalists, and I was just talking about how our development program was. It's not unusual to develop a racing car. It's just somewhat unusual that you have to, you know, some of the more radical things we have in mind may require a monocoque and change, and if that becomes a reality, it's logical that it becomes a B spec. So I think I was trying to demonstrate that we're very committed to trying to have the most competitive car throughout the season.
And just briefly, are we going to see more speed from this car during the race?
Well, I should think so. We're, you know, everybody that's sat on in front of us have enjoyed 24 hours of euphoria on their grid positions, but we're here to do the best job in the race, and strategy is reflecting that. We lack a bit of pace, but certainly not as much pace as people think. We approach this race very conservatively. It's important to go away with points, and that's where we're focused on. The World Championship is the whole season, it's not one race.
Thanks very much, Ron.
Created a big surprise here last year. They will hope to do the same this afternoon. I'm joined by a man who I saw on television the other day, and it just said racing legend Sir Stirling Moss.
Oh, thank you very much.
If you're not a legend, nobody is, Stirling. Let's talk about the British drivers, always very close to your heart. And here, first signs are that Jenson Button has made a lot of ground up on David Coulthard.
Tremendous, actually. He's doing extremely well. The car's looking a lot better. The engine appears to be better, but it's at early times. So I think this race race really is the most important of the year to let us know what's going to happen next time, you know.
Do you think Jensen will improve? Will he mature now that he's team leader at BAR?
Oh, I'm sure he will. I mean, he hasn't been in that long, although he's obviously more senior to quite a lot of other drivers. He still hasn't been that long, not in the real terms of time, but and I think he will improve, and I think the car will improve with him, actually.
What do you feel but that there are only 2 British drivers on the grid this year?
Well, yeah, but it happens like that, you know. I mean, we had Australasians, we've had, you know, all sorts of different people, different countries they came from. In my time, there were a lot of English or more English, and just hope that more English come along. I mean, we haven't got enough of them.
We haven't. I'm being trampled by legends down here in the paddock. Jackie.
Just hold on a minute. I've got something very important. There's a very attractive lady who wants Stirling Moss's autograph, and this is it's such a pest. So many beautiful girls are always after him all the time.
You better believe it.
And where is she?
Well, she's just behind there somewhere. I'm just hiding her in the garage.
We were talking about the British thruster this year, and perhaps slightly disappointed that there are only a couple of runners and riders from Britain, Coulthard and Button.
We need more. We need more structuring to achieve that. We need more of the grassroots motorsport created in order to deliver young drivers. In Stirling's day, there was a real programme going because the sport was very young, the programme. So therefore, everybody who looked good had a place to go. Today, there needs to be structure, same as football, same as rugby, same as cricket. So I think we in motor racing have got to do something about it, Stirling.
Yeah, but the carts are bringing the boys on. That's the great thing. I mean, they really do.
But we need after carts. Right. We need an infrastructure, and I've been talking to Alex Ferguson up at Manchester United. I've talked to Liverpool. I've talked to Arsenal, and I think there's ways of doing it. We have to do it, and the BRDC, of course, which Stirling is a vice president of, we're all interested in doing it and hope to do it well in the future.
Let's just get a word from you both finally about this season. We're having a poll about who is going to be world champion this season. Give us your thoughts. Can anybody beat Mr. Schumacher?
I don't think, in truth, I don't think so. I think Michael's done an enormous amount for motor racing. I think the way he's brought Ferrari from where Ferrari was, which wasn't very high, and put them where they are, using our people as well, but I think he's done a fantastic contribution as well as his driving.
I don't think you're going to disagree, are you, Jackie, by the look on your face?
No, he right now is the most complete racing driver in the world, but, you know, nobody stays up there for always, so you're going to have to look for a Montoya or a Raikkonen or a Ralf Schumacher.
But this year you think he will stay there?
I think he will, because I think the Ferrari, the whole package is more complete. But this is only the first race. Okay. There's a lot to happen.
2 Knights of the Realm. Thank you very much indeed for rubbing shoulders with me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so as I was saying, we have a poll this weekend. You can we want your vote about who is going to be a champion this year, and most of you go, along with the 2 who have just left me there, for Michael Schumacher to make it a magnificent 7. And this is how it stands at the moment. Michael Schumacher, 47% of your votes. Montoya has 30. Raikkonen, 21. You can still vote. Send champ A, B or C to 86188, and we will give you the result after the race. We always appreciate your input here. You can contact the team. Text F1 and the message again to 86188. If you want to ask a few questions, I'm in the hot seat this week. ITV.com/F1. That's our website. I have to tell you, the temperatures dropped here in the paddock. Earlier this week in Melbourne, it was 36 degrees. Now it's barely touching 18. Let's get a word on that from our race commentators, from Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Well, it's getting a bit nippy here in Albert Park, isn't it? Not what you expect from Australia. Quite cold, and that will certainly favour the Ferraris today. But what about the Brits, Martin? I mean, Jenson Button, a stellar performance by him. David Coulthard looks like he's struggling.
Yeah, Jenson, robbed of 3rd place on the grid, would have been a better side of the track to start from with the new regulations. But anyway, he has got a great chance this afternoon. David knew he was in trouble. Raikkonen too. They're both slow in the McLarens, and DC tried to take something out of the last corner that just wasn't there, ran wide. The scary thing for him is, even if it had been a clean lap, he'd have only been one place further up the grid. So they are in trouble.
Yeah, but it looks good for Ferrari, and particularly watch out for Rubens Barrichello. Remember how he always used to be about 0.3 of a second slower than Michael Schumacher? Well, these days he's bang on his pace, just a few hundredths of a second in it. Certainly this big Albert Park crowd full of expectation.
Eddie, what's all this going on the back of your rearing end plate?
Come on, Louise, you know we wouldn't miss an opportunity like this. The good old paddies, we stuffed the English in Twickenham today, and I got absolutely no sleep. I had every person that I could imagine had my telephone number, every text after text after text. So it's the least I can do for all of those marauding Irish people having great fun elsewhere. But you know, it was a big result to beat the world champions, and I know it'll rebound to hurt me at some stage, but it's worth the opportunity.
You got peace at one end of the car. Presumably this is causing a bit of war at the other end, is it?
Well, I mean, the peace is a humanitarian message from Bahrain, which in itself is just a sensational idea, but this was another opportunity. You know, the rugby, you rightly say it was a war, but wasn't much of a war in the lineouts, I'm told. We absolutely dominated it, Louise.
Well, make the most of your moment, because I think it'll be a while till it happens again, Eddie.
Probably so, but the Triple Crown beckons us.
Yes, Eddie, not the only Irishman who's reminded me of that result here this morning. This first Grand Prix in Oz really takes some beating. Rubens Barrichello just going out and warming up the start just under half an hour away. Melbourne is an absolutely magnificent sporting city. Close to 400,000 people relishing that 4-day motoring festival in Albert Park. It really is a magnificent sight for the race. Mark Webber carrying their hopes in the race. Go, Webber, go is their cry, and the Jaguar driver, a very impressive all-round character.
Mark, we're used to seeing some sterling efforts from you in qualifying last year, but 6th on the grid for your home Grand Prix, that's going to be something pretty special.
Very happy, actually. I think, you know, we didn't really expect to get that, to be honest, and you know, we expected maybe just to be inside the top 10, but to be up there, I think the team made it easy for me. A great little car, and they did a good job.
You're the only Australian on the grid. You've been a popular man this weekend. Have you had any time to yourself?
I have had a little bit of time to myself. It has been very busy. It's quite difficult for me down here. Everywhere I go, obviously, schedules get out of control. It's busy, but it's a good problem to have in many ways, because I'm happy to fly the flag for Australia.
And it's great to see that you're actually giving something back to the local fans as well with this initiative that the GPDA has put together. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's right. I think, you know, over the winter, Michael and myself and Jarno and David, we come up with some ideas, and we are friendly guys, us drivers, but sometimes that's the perception isn't that, and we are busy. It's hard to keep everybody happy, so we decided that I'm the patron for Brainwave here in Australia, which is a cancer for young kids, and we're trying to sell as many pins as we can, and there's a few winners that can then come into the paddock and say hello to the drivers and just be a little bit more open with it.
You mentioned Michael. Obviously you're working closely with him on the GPDA. He's been saying some very flattering things about you lately, hasn't he?
Well, he has. I hope that in the years to come I can get even maybe somewhere close to maybe winning a world championship. I haven't really achieved anything in Formula One yet. I've got a lot more to achieve. I hope this season is a good one for me, and I hope I can win some races in the future, and then win enough in one season maybe to win 1/6 of what he's done, try and win a championship. But he's a phenomenal guy, and I like racing with him and race hard, but he's very special.
Do you think that championship will come with Jaguar? Because there's been a lot of talk about you maybe moving to Williams next season.
Well, it could come here. It could come here at Jaguar, but it would take a lot more time, and we need a lot more focus and energy on the whole program. Clearly what they've done at the other end of the pit lane, you know, and that's the way Jaguar has moved forward in the last year and a half has been absolutely phenomenal.
But what is the situation with Williams? Have they made any moves towards you? Would you like to go there and fill the vacancy?
Well, that's a tough question to answer. Obviously, I've got a huge amount of respect for Williams as a team. They're the most successful team ever, really, in the sport. So the way Frank runs it and Patrick, it is special. But there hasn't really been any discussions as such. I think the media has built it up a lot more than actually that's happening. But if there is interest, then it's a good problem to have as a driver. I've got to keep performing. It's a very fickle business. People change their mind very quickly. So I've just got to keep performing, and hopefully Jaguar will keep paying me and keep enjoying having me work for them.
Australia waited a very long time for a Formula One driver. Mark Webber is doing them proud. Everybody had a great day here for Minardi a couple of years ago when they scored their last points in Formula One. The countdown continues to curtain up, down under. So then the Foster's Grand Prix will be 58 laps around Melbourne's Albert Park, and this, by the way, will be one of the key sites when the city stages the Commonwealth Games in a couple of years' time. Reliability always the key to succeeding here. We've seen big accidents. You can expect plenty of retirements. It'll be a shock, though, if this man fails to go the distance. You're on board Michael Schumacher's record-breaking Ferrari.
Let's try and find out where this Ferrari is fast. Remember, we're on race fuel, doing 190 miles an hour down to turn 1. Brake down to just 80, but don't try and take too much speed through there. You can only lose more than you can gain. 2 is easy then, and out of the way. Just gently womble across the road to the left-hand side for turn 3. 190 again, down to just 50. Try and hook it right as far as you can. 4 is immediately ahead of you. 70 miles an hour. The curb on the right halts the slide. Turn 5, a sweeper. Just a slight lift of the throttle. Traction control cutting in. Now a left turn into a braking zone for 6. Down to 70. 7 opens up nicely. 8's a sweeper between the 2 walls. Up to 175 miles an hour for turn 9. Brake a bit earlier on the bumps. Touch the curb on the right-hand side. 10 is very easy for a man of Michael Schumacher's skill. Ignore those solid white lines as you build up to over 190 miles an hour. You're looking for a tiny curb for the entry point to turn 11. There it is. Sweep through right. You'll just squeeze on the curb on the outside. Some understeer there. The Ferrari just losing a touch of time. Now then, turn 13. 180 down to 70. Pretty easy on the exit. This next corner's more tricky. Let's see this. And really fighting the car on the way in. Always low grip through there. Braking hard into this tiny little hairpin. Turn 15, keeping as far left as you can. And that is absolutely mighty through there. Just the merest lift of the throttle, and the car just can't wait to get down the pit straight. Pole position.
Jensen, fantastic qualifying performance yesterday. You've equalled BAR's best ever result. Can you show the same pace in the race today, though?
We always set the car up for the race, so we're hoping for good things. The weather's not perfect; it's a little bit too cool, but you know, I'm sure we can do our best.
Reliability is going to be a big issue for everybody. Always is at the season opener. How do you think you're fixed there?
I think we're all right. You know, on Friday we didn't do as many laps as we could have done, just conserving everything. So I think we're looking pretty strong in that area, which is the most important thing probably for today.
I know we keep going on about the podium, but I mean, it's a realistic option from here, isn't it?
It would be nice, but not saying anything yet.
We'll keep our fingers crossed for you. Good luck.
He has thrown up a lot since he made his debut here 4 years ago. The Australian Air Force always show us their skills at this particular Grand Prix. Flavio Briatore, his Renault boys are in with a good shout there, in with Norbert Howe from McLaren Mercedes as well. Let's get a word from the BMW side of things. BMW Williams, Ralf Schumacher starting 8th on the grid. He's with Ted Kravitz.
Well, Ralf, how was the car feeling on the way to the grid?
Well, since we go so slow to save fuel, basically, it's very difficult to figure out how a car feels based on every work we did before, really. Should be pretty good now today. I mean, it's a bit cold for our tyres, really, but let's find out.
You've got to make your first manual start for some years now. Are you ready for that?
Well, we've had an odd practice, but you know, you never know. It's a totally different situation. It's a race situation, so it's easy to make a mistake here, but it's the same for everybody, I guess.
And what about the racing? People talk that the drivers might lose a bit of their racecraft over the winter. How ready do you feel to go wheel to wheel?
I guess I do feel ready, but you know, let's wait and see how the start works. I just hope that I have a good start, make 1 or 2 positions if possible, and then let's wait and see.
Have a good race. Thank you.
Back on the 4th row of the grid. It's a terrific spectacle, a 4-day festival, as I said here. Nick Heidfeld, the new man at Jordan, enjoying the view with a record crowd. They've had record crowds all the way through. I think over 100,000, 110,000 people here today. Tony Jardine has joined me. Tony, talk about the different starts. Just explain those, what they're all going to have to do here.
Well, previously they've had fully automatic gearboxes, and those are now outlawed, so they've got to go for a manual start. They've got a little paddle on the back of the steering wheel, 1 for the clutch and then 2 for the gear changes. So they're going to have to release that clutch very carefully, make a manual start, so we could see some mistakes. And Ralph was talking about mistakes here. I think they all get a bit lively the first race of the season. And the biggest cause of retirements here in Australia has been driver error so far over the Australian Grand Prix.
You happy to see that as a man who's a little bit suspect about the gizmos on the cars? Are you happy to see that at the start?
I think it's progress. What will happen is traction control is allowed to kick in after the first 50 yards or so, and then the electronics take over, but at least they've got to manually get the cars off the grid, and that is a driver's skill, no doubt.
Just caught a sight there of Paul Stoddart and the Minardi team, who had that famous point scoring race here a couple of years ago, and a lot of attention on Paul, a man who comes from Melbourne and who's done exceedingly well to keep Minardi on the grid. All 10 teams are on the grid, and just looking at the interest here in Australia, I mean, they put on a fantastic show. They love their Grand Prix racing, and perhaps the guys up there as well all be focused on Mark Webber, won't they? But they want Webber to do well here, Tony.
Yeah, Mark Webber, he is an emerging hero in Australia. Go Aussie, go. And there's his teammate, young Christian Klein, in his first Grand Prix, one of 3 rookies here today.
Let's go to Fernando Alonso with Louise.
Fernando, the team didn't seem to be too happy with the qualifying performance yesterday, but I don't think 5th on the grid's that bad, is it?
No, I was happy. If the team was not happy, I don't know why.
So you reckon you're in good shape for today?
Yeah, I think with the car we have, 5th position maximum is the maximum we can achieve. We cannot forget that we are fighting with Ferrari, Williams, McLaren, very top team.
Have a good race.
Thank you.
I think it's worth remembering, Tony, that it's a very, very long season, and it'd be tough really to draw any concrete conclusions from what happens here today.
I think that's why Ron Dennis was talking about a conservative approach before. He knows the cars are lacking pace. He wants them to get home into the points, and that's why perhaps we're going to see quite a different strategy from McLaren today. We shall know. But looking around at this circuit, you can see it's a very definite temporary street circuit. The unyielding walls are there. Look at the sand traps there, and it is a dust bowl as well. Of course, it's cleaned up with the more rubber that's gone down. And there's Olivier Panis.
He's been there and seen it all, hasn't he?
Hasn't he just? But he's had a really tough time. You know, he couldn't secure a time. They had a problem with the electronics of the car, and they couldn't get out at all, which is a real problem for them. Not a good start for Toyota, and they've got to do well this year. Remember when they came here at the start 2 years ago with Salo, they got a point.
Yeah, I feel sure though that Toyota will improve very steadily. Well, let's go down there to the sharp end of the grid, and for the first time in 2004, it's Martin.
Thank you, Jim. Hello, everybody. Well done for getting up this early in the morning, you crazy lot. What on earth are you doing? But I love your love of this sport. I hope I'm not just speaking to your video recorder here. There's lots of action on the grid, a lot of atmosphere, as you would expect, and anticipation. I was just, let's see if we can get hold of Rubinho. How are you doing? Good to see you. Looking good for you?
Yeah, looking good. I mean, yesterday was so close between myself and Michael. Right now, the car, I think everyone is going to find out a little bit. We've been testing in several places, but the true potential of the car is still to find out.
Are you at all concerned being on the right-hand side of the grid?
Well, I've seen the Porsche races and the other races. The second place always overtook the first one, so I'm looking forward.
Yeah, because you've had no warm-up here to clean the grid up as you would have in the good old days. But, I mean, there's a race starting here every 15 minutes, isn't there, more or less? So it's incredible. And you got a chance to beat Michael today. Can you beat him in a straight fight?
I've been better all the time, and I think I had a chance to drive this car only a little bit, but on the old one, I've been testing more and more the race pace, and we're very close. So depends pretty much a little bit of lucky here, there. I think so.
These new wide mirrors you have, which must be a bit difficult to see out of, you're not going to need them much today, are you? Because you're going to be so far in front, I think.
In some areas they are more difficult if you're going up and down, but you know they're more to the outside so you can see, but I hope I'm not using them.
Yeah, there's not going to be anybody in them. Good luck. Good to see you. I saw Valentino Rossi cruising around here somewhere. I really would like a quick word with him, but let's just go down to see if we find. He's got to be an interesting guy to talk to. JPM doesn't normally like talking, but Juan Pablo, a quick word. British TV, top man. What do you think? P3 on the grid, got a chance to stay with these Red Boys?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. You know, in the start, you know, for a long time I haven't been in the clean side. Now with the new start, it'll be interesting to see what everybody does.
No, we can make it work. We might be able to get a good jump, at least on one of the red cars, and see what happens from there. You know, it's really a pretty interesting race. The weather doesn't really suit us that well, but we'll see what happens.
Oh, you mean you need a warmer track for the Michelins, but at least it's good for the brakes, though, yeah?
Yeah, but we didn't have any problems with the brakes, so it's a bit of a shame.
All right, well, good luck and have a good one. Let's see if we can find Rossi. Oh, he's talking down now to another TV company. So, Pasquale, can you muscle in here? Because, like, ITV is more important than all this lot. He lives in London, this man. He's sort of the Michael Schumacher of the motorcycle world. And he's absolutely a top man. Hello, Valentino, a quick word for British TV. You're living in London, I believe.
Yes, always, yes. Live in London and stay very well.
Okay, good. You're testing down here for Yamaha. How's it going?
Yes, we start to test. We follow. We need time. We need to work. Tuesday we go in Phillip Island and we hope we catch Honda.
Good luck with that. Who do you want to win this Grand Prix? Are you a Ferrari man?
Yes, I like Ferrari. I think it's between the two Ferraris or also Montoya. I hope to see a great show.
Okay, and they say that you'd be very good for Formula One. You fancy trying that? You tried rallying, you want to try single-seater?
I always like car. I start with go-kart. I make some rally race. I want try one Formula One. I don't know if it's possible, but maybe this year is possible.
I think it's very possible. Have a Sir Sterling. Oh, he's going to talk to Valentino. I want to see Mark Webber, local hero, and see if we can get a quick word with Mark before he gets in the car. Oh, you look really stressed out, mate, and sort of worried to death. Chilled as normal. What do you think's going to happen?
I think we're in for a great Grand Prix. I think there's going to be a few retirements. Start will be interesting, obviously, with this new drivers got to do the work, so that'll be interesting. Hope we can get away well. But we're in for a good Grand Prix. It's a good mix up here. I think the top 6 could be interesting at the end.
What's actually the chances of getting away with a good start? Is it 9 out of 10, 7 out of 10, or 10 out of 10?
I'd probably say 7.
Oh, really? So you think a good number of the cars on the grid will be pretty sluggish? But you can't stall them anymore, can you? But you can bog them down a bit.
Yeah, I just think that there's a good start and there's an average start. They're very easy to get off the line average, but you want to get away well, that's the hard part. So I just hope there's a few boys make some mistakes here and we can have a look through.
Yeah, all right, good. What's the realistic target for you today?
Well, just strong finish, clean pit stops, no mistakes from my side. Try and get the top 6.
All right, good luck. Good to see you. I heard Bernie de Bolt is wandering around here somewhere. We're not sure where, and he's not the easiest man to see in all of this lot. I wondered maybe to have a quick word with David Richards as well of BAR. Let's head back up here because I know we've spoken to David, and maybe we'll just try Alonso. We've been lucky with drivers today. Fernando. No, he's going to get in the car. He's not ready to talk. He's not ready to talk to us today. I think it's a good time to go back to Jim.
Thanks very much indeed, Martin. Of course, we heard from Fernando Alonso just a couple of minutes ago anyway, didn't we? Some terrific little grid walk from Martin there. Now, Tony's quite interesting going on there down on the grid. A lot of talk that we said about the start. Who would you expect really to get away well? It used to be the Renaults, of course, didn't it? But that launch control's been taken away from them now.
Well, I would expect Juan Pablo to get away quite well. I would expect the Ferraris to get away well. Clearly, the people on the inside, on the dirty side, like Jenson Button, are going to have a little bit of a problem with traction because they weren't able to run over that period. There isn't a warm-up session in the morning. But I think everyone is going to be quite tentative, quite worried about this because, you know, it's not done for them. It's down to the driver. Yeah. And the person who's messed them up in the past is Michael Schumacher, particularly in his championship year in Japan when he failed.
Do you feel it's all really playing into Michael Schumacher and Ferrari's hands here? Because Michelin would have hoped for it to be much hotter. It's dropped several degrees from yesterday, and the Bridgestone's working so well in these sort of conditions.
Ferrari do have a stranglehold here, and this car, although it was so conservative and everyone looked at it and said, well, it looks like all the other Ferraris, it's great underneath the skin, and I expect it to be very, very strong indeed. But at the same time, Michael Schumacher has made mistakes. Look at the things that happened last year to him, and you know, look at the big offs he had. He even had an off here in practice as well when the wind caught his car, and he went off in exactly the same place as David Coulthard did coming out of the last corner. And you know, he could still make one of those mistakes. You never know. He's got to get away as cleanly as possible.
And looking at Mark Webber there, it never ceases to amaze me how calm the fellow is. He's got the whole of the nation watching him. First Grand Prix of the season, home Grand Prix, and absolutely ice cool.
But now the difference is, once he's in that cockpit, which he is now, he says, I could be anywhere. I could be in Italy, I could be in France. He'll be focusing just on the race ahead. He'll be trying not to look at the grid girls, concentrating
You can have a glance if he wants, can't he?
Well, you know, he understands there's a huge pressure on his shoulders. Now you're looking at that weird nose, the old walrus nose there on the new Williams. And it's revolutionary car. Antonio Terzi, the aerodynamicist who came up with that. You see the difference there on the front of the Ferrari, a very traditional nose, the long nose there with the wing underneath it. It's much shorter on the Williams, and that's designed to get the airflow much cleaner through underneath the car. And of course, Ross Brawn, the technical director, overseeing operations as usual, the big general.
Absolutely. Well, your winter Formula One famine is nearly over. Michael Schumacher up the front there. But the pole sitter, I have to tell you, rarely wins here. Just 3 have come through in the last 9 years. Jenson Button, well, he has grown up since his Melbourne debut as a teenager. And I just wonder, 67 races on, if Button can get on that podium. You've got to factor in Alonso, you've got to factor in Montoya and that revolutionary Williams, plus the Australian Mark Webber in the Jaguar. Those are the fascinating ingredients for the Foster's Australian Grand Prix.